Hello and welcome. This is Marcus from Terabyte. This video is all going to be about the Microsoft LAPS service, or local administrator password solution. If you've never heard about LAPS before, this might be of use for you if you manage a lot of machines in an environment where you have to set local administrator accounts. What you can do with LAPS is configure it on the domain and then actually set it all up on all the machines, and this will actually allow you to configure and use local administrator accounts a little bit easier than just having the same account across all machines. So what happens is, when you configure LAPS, it'll store a local administrator password in an Active Directory in an AD attribute. So what we're going to do today in this video is just briefly go through how to actually download LAPS, install it on the domain, and then just go through, show a little bit of configuration, and then stop there. There's a lot to it, or there can be a lot to it when you set it all up, so we won't get too detailed for it. We'll just show the basics, and then I'll put some links in the description below the video, and then you can just go through and read through it and configure it to your heart's content. There's not a lot in it, so we'll just get into it. So what we'll need to do is, you need to go to a URL, which I'll put in the description here, and then you just download this file here, which will give you an MSI file, which I've already done. And then all we do is just double click on this LAPS file, go next, and I've already had it installed before, so I'll just remove that just so we know what we're doing. Double click on this, go to next, accept the license agreement, and just for ease we'll just enable everything. It's a very small install, so it won't really make much difference. Click next, hit install, and that's it, finished. Well, for this bit anyway. The next bit we need to do is actually run a bit of PowerShell. So just to configure LAPS. So we're just going to PowerShell here. And then you need to be an administrator. So we'll just say import module. And then it's AdmPwd.PS there. Press enter, that does that. And then we need to do Update-AdmPwdADSchema. Again, another thing with this is, before you do all this PowerShell stuff, you do actually have to be a member of the Schema Admins within the domain. If you're not, this section will fail, because it actually updates a lot of the schema settings and stuff for Active Directory. So just press enter, and there you go. It shows that everything's been successfully installed and configured. If you weren't a member of the Schema admin, or you haven't got permissions to do it, obviously some of this will come up saying failed or error. Right, so once that's done, you can now go into local security policy, well, for this example, and then we can go into computer configuration, policies, actually I'll start again, we can go into group policy management even. And apologies for my phone just beeping there a second ago. Domains, into my test domain. And now here you can actually either create your own group policy, which could be recommended, or for this one we're just going to go in and use the default domain one, which I wouldn't really recommend. But in here we just go to edit. And then under computer configuration, we just go into policies, into administrative templates. And hopefully, if it's installed properly, yep, there we go, we see LAPS. So you can just click on the LAPS there, and as you see, we've got 4 sections here which are not configured. So there's a few bits there. So the password settings one, this one here, this one will just let you set the complexity of the password and how often it needs to be changed. As you can see here, it gives you a bit of information here, so you can just say enabled, change the complexity to whatever you like. Put the password length in and the password age. The name of administrator account to manage. This one here just goes in there. This is only required if you're going to rename the actual administrator account to something else. So every time you install Windows, it has an administrator account. If you like, you could just change that to something else. For the overall security things, it doesn't really matter, because if anyone's targeting your network or attacking your network, it's quite easy to actually find out what an administrator is, but it gives a little bit of extra confidence or complexity to help protect you against the various accounts and stuff like that. So do not allow password exploration time longer than policy, as it says pretty much. Just goes in here and you can put the password age in and do things like that. And then enable local admin password management. This is the main important one for LAPS. If you don't enable this one, LAPS won't be configured, so you just say enable on there and do that. And then that is just about all of it done. Obviously with group policy it takes a while to replicate and go through. What we can do in here, the last little bit you need to do is actually tell LAPS what machines are going to be configured and managed. So for this domain at the moment, all we have is on the users and computers. I've got all my computers just in the computer one here, and this is the one that we'll set it against. So what you need to do is just run a PowerShell command, which I'll stick in the comments below as well so you know what it is. So Set-AdmPwdComputerSelfPermission then OrgUnit, and then actually put in the organizational unit of whichever's the unit's going to be managed. So for this one I'm just going to say that and do that properly, and that's now been delegated. So what this will do is just tell Microsoft LAPS that everything's going to be self-managed and permissioned against this OU here. At the moment there's only there's nothing in there at the moment, but if you did, you could have lots of machines in there, set it up, configure it and go from there. Then the last thing you need to do is, this is all finished on the server, the last thing you'd actually need to do is actually copy a DLL file onto every machine that you want to be managed. And this is the AdmPwd.PS file. Now depending upon how you manage your computers, this could change from person to person. There's a couple of ways you could do. You could install the DLL by actually running this file here, the MSI file that you got previously, and then just go through, change that and just find that DLL file, which would be this one here. Or what you can do is just go through onto the server that you've installed it on, look for the file AdmPwd, if I can speak words out, .dll, and copy that onto the machine via group policy deployments or any other managed service that you use to actually deploy files across. And then once that's done, obviously push out group policy across all the machines, and that's it, managed. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense for you. What I might actually do is do another video on this, make it a bit more detailed and in depth into it, and actually go through configuring it on the machine as well, or just copying the DLL onto the machine and then having a look at all the settings and stuff like that. I hope this makes sense. If you'd like to see this video or anything else further on, just drop some comments below this video. Appreciate it if you could subscribe to this or like the video and go from there. Any comments that you have or any recommendations, or if you've used LDAPs before in the past, feel free to comment on the video and we'll go from there. Thanks very much.